Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into some fascinating material. It's this story about a family, intense dynamics, philosophy, art, all centered around this seaside house.
Yeah, it's incredibly rich, very impressionistic, and it really zooms in on the internal worlds of these characters, intellectuals, artists, the whole group.
Okay, so what's our mission here? What are we trying to unpack?
Well, our main goal is to look at these opposing forces in the family, especially Mr. Ramsay, the philosopher, and Mrs. Ramsay, his wife, and then see how others like Lily Briscoe, the artist, and William Bankus sort of navigate that emotional landscape.
And it all seems to hang on this one simple thing, doesn't it? This trip. Are they going to the lighthouse or not?
Exactly. And right away, the sources set up this core tension. It's like uncompromising fact, capital F, versus maybe necessary feeling or illusion.
That tension just explodes, doesn't it?
Right.
Right at the start with Mr. Ramsay and his son James.
Oh, absolutely. Mr. Ramsay just flat out says it won't be fine for the trip. Why? Just to prove his accuracy of judgment.
And the impact of that. On James.
It's brutal. The source tells us James is thinking, well, he wishes he had an axe or a poker or something that would have gashed a hole in his father's breast and killed him.
Wow. Just wishing his father dead because he was right about the weather. That says everything about how high the stakes are for truth in that house.
It really does. It's visceral.
So how does that family hatred, that sort of tyranny, connect back to his actual work, his philosophy?
It's completely intertwined. His whole sense of self is tied up in this relentless chase for knowledge. He even thinks about it in, military terms.
Military terms, how so?
Yeah, he's described as lean as a knife. He compares his intellectual struggles to the charge of the Light Brigade, sees himself as a leader of a forlorn hope. It's quite dramatic.
So he's turning his intellectual work into this big suffering performance
Mm-hmm.
and demanding everyone else
Right.
applaud.
Demands sympathy, flattery. The sources use this alphabet analogy. He's reached Q in his thinking, which apparently very few people ever reach.
Okay, so he's brilliant, recognized.
Right. But he's desperately stuck trying to get to R, and that struggle, that perceived failure, makes him need constant validation at home. He becomes tyrannical.
It sounds almost vampiric. The sources use really strong language, don't they? Like fatal sterility of the male, an arid scimitar plunging into Mrs. Ramsay's delicious fecundity.
Exactly. Seeking something from her because he can't find it in himself or his work. He's described as both venerable and laughable. It clearly wears her down.
And Lily Briscoe, the artist, she has this image for his philosophy, right? Something about a table.
Yeah, it's perfect. She remembers his son, Andrew, trying to explain his father's dense work, subject and object, and the nature of reality. Andrew just tells her, think of a scrubbed kitchen table when you're not there.
A scrubbed kitchen table, that's stark. Angular, plain, austere.
Exactly. It captures that seeing of angular essences, that bare, hard truth Mr. Ramsay is obsessed with.
Okay, so if he's the scrubbed kitchen table, the harsh fact, what about Mrs. Ramsay? She's the complete opposite.
Absolutely the counterpoint. The source calls her the fount of life and illusion. While he's stuck on the letter R, she's busy knitting a stocking.
A stocking.
Yeah, a specific reddish-brown stocking for the lighthouse keeper's little boy, the one with a tuberculous hip. That's her focus. Practical care, connection, nurturing.
She's managing everything, isn't she? Not just the kids, but even thinking about the lighthouse keepers, feeling for them being stuck out there upon a rock the size of a tennis lawn.
Right, collecting magazines and tobacco for them. And she worries about the strife between her own 8 children. She even wants to, investigate the social problem, rich versus poor, with her notebook.
But her main role seems to be shielding people, especially shielding James from his father's facts.
Exactly. When Mr. Ramsay says it won't be fine, she immediately counters with, it may be fine, I expect it will be fine. She literally flies in the face of facts to soothe her son.
Which must drive Mr. Ramsay crazy. It invalidates his truth.
Completely. But she has to radiate this energy, this sort of protective force. She's called a column of spray. When he feels like a failure, she reassures him, tells him the house is full, the garden blowing.
Like a nurse with a child, the source says. It sounds like an immense burden.
It is. And importantly, she's not just this simple, selfless figure. In her private moments, alone, she really struggles. She questions the lack of reason, order, justice in the world.
But she finds solace somewhere.
Yes. Watching the lighthouse beam sweep across the bay, in those moments, she finds exquisite happiness, intense happiness. It's complex, doubt and peace, side by side.
Okay, so navigating this intense household, we have the guests, Let's talk about Lily Briscoe. She's trying to paint, right, in this environment.
Yes, and it's a real struggle. She's up against this constant background noise, especially from Charles Tansley, that women can't paint, women can't write.
Ugh, that must be tough.
And her own process is difficult. The sources describe it as a passage from conception to work as dreadful as any down a dark passage. She's trying so hard to capture her vision, her truth.
Using those specific colors, the bright violet and the staring white, not just pale, fashionable stuff.
Right. She's fighting for her own kind of angular essence, but with color and form, not just bare fact like Mr. Ramsay.
And her relationship with Mrs. Ramsay seems complicated too. She admires her, but also critiques her.
Definitely. She sees Mrs. Ramsay's mania for marriage and notes Mrs. Ramsay thinks she, Lily, is a fool for being single, for having missed the best of life.
That creates a lot of internal conflict for Lily, doesn't it?
It does. Moments of wanting to confess everything, like, I'm in love with this all, just gesturing at the garden, followed by sudden tears over, well, over want, over what she doesn't have.
Which maybe explains why her friendship with William Banks is so important. The botanist.
I think so, yes. They need each other as sort of objective observers. They form this little alliance where they can talk about the Ramsays, Mr. Ramsay prodding his son's leg, hating dogs on chairs.
Without getting sucked into the emotional vortex.
Exactly. They're the slightly bewildered audience trying to make sense of it all from the sidelines.
Okay, and then there's Charles Tansley. The total opposite of Bankus, maybe. He's Mr. Ramsay's disciple.
Yeah, the miserable specimen, as the kids call him. He's utterly devoted to Mr. Ramsay and very defensive about his own background.
Self-made, the sources say. Paid his own way, worked constantly.
Right, smokes the cheapest tobacco. And he uses facts as a weapon, just like Mr. Ramsay. He loves rubbing in that no going to the lighthouse prediction. Tells Lily she'd just get sick anyway.
Charming. And his views on women.
Pretty bad. He thinks they make civilization impossible with all their charm, all their silliness.
He sounds awful. Yet Mrs. Ramsay, she handles him differently.
She does. She sees his insecurity, his shame about his father being a chemist, never having been to a circus. She tries to protect him from the kids laughing, smooth things over. It shows her skill in managing emotions, even his.
Which leads back to Lily's point about relationships being, extremely insincere.
Yeah. Lily admits she has to do the usual trick, been nice, to Tansley. Basically perform niceness just to ease the social tension for Mrs. Ramsay.
So much performance required just to keep things civil.
It seems so. But that performance, that fragile civility, it gets shattered. The sources make this abrupt jump in time.
Right. It's quite jarring. Suddenly, years have passed.
And Mrs. Ramsay is dead. So is Andrew, the son who explained the kitchen table. And Prue, one of the daughters, gone.
And the house. The place that held all that life.
It's falling apart, abandoned, dripping with wet, in rack and ruin, only saved from complete decay by the cleaners, Mrs. McNabb and Mrs. Bast, who stayed the corruption and the rot.
Mrs. McNabb remembers Mrs. Ramsay almost like a ghost.
Yes, a lady in a gray cloak stooping over her flowers. The vibrancy is just gone.
But then, years later, Mr. Ramsay decides to finally make the trip to the lighthouse.
He does, with James, now 16, and Cam, his daughter, who's 17.
How's that dynamic? Are they happy to go?
Not at all. James and Cam have this great compact to resist tyranny to the death. They feel their father has forced them to come.
And Mr. Ramsay, still performing his suffering.
Oh, yes. Doing his little drama of the desolate widower, muttering poetry about being whelmed in deeper gulf.
But the lighthouse itself, it means different things to them now, doesn't it, when they actually see it up close?
It really does. For James, still seeking that hard truth, the actual lighthouse is just a stark tower on a bare rock. It confirms his bleak view, the truth about things, loneliness, austerity.
But not for Cam.
Not entirely. She gets caught up in the journey, the speed of the boat. She sees her father's courage, his charm, even finds him courteous. She's torn, between James's sense of justice against their father and her own pull towards him, his need for connection.
And while all this is happening on the boat, back on land, Lily Briscoe is there too.
Yes. She's returned after 10 years. She's on the lawn trying to finish that same painting she started all those years ago when Mrs. Ramsay was alive.
And she has a breakthrough.
She does. Her aha moment. She solves the problem of space in her painting, how to connect the different masses on the canvas. She realizes it's about finding that razor edge of balance. That connection holds everything together, stops the chaos.
And this happens just as.
Just as Mr. Ramsay reaches the lighthouse, the sources explicitly link them. Lily makes her final, quick, decisive stroke on the canvas, feeling the art is finished, permanent. And at that moment, the thought comes. He must have reached it. It is finished.
Wow. So the artistic completion and the physical arrival happen together. What does Mr. Ramsay say when he finally gets there after all that build-up, all that philosophy?
That's the amazing part, he says. Almost nothing profound. He just puts on his hat, ignores his own internal drama for a second, and says, bring those parcels.
Parcels.
Yeah.
Side supplies.
Yeah, presumably the things for the keepers they were bringing all along. And then he leaps lightly, like a young man, onto the rock. No big speech about failure or success. Maybe he's thinking we perished each alone. Maybe I have found it. But outwardly, silence. Just the simple action.
So the arrival itself, coinciding with Lily's painting, is the culmination, not some grand statement.
It seems that way. The permanence is in the synchronicity, in the finished vision, the completed journey.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've seen these intense internal lives, the rage, the love, the artistic drive constantly pushing against, well, against reality, against facts, time, social pressures.
Yeah, and the sources suggest that maybe that great revelation, the big answer everyone seems to be searching for, it might never actually arrive.
So what do we get?
We get little daily miracles, illuminations, matches struck unexpectedly in the dark, small moments of connection, of insight, like Mrs. Ramsay pulling off a dinner party or Lily finding that perfect balance in her painting, moments that feel at least temporarily stable, permanent.
Right, little sparks instead of a bonfire.
Exactly.
So here's a final thought for you to consider as we finish this deep dive. Everything physical seems so temporary in these sources, doesn't it? The house decays, people die. It needs the cleaners to fight back the rot.
Yeah, life feels very fragile.
But then you have that scrubbed kitchen table, the idea of bare truth, and Lily's final brushstroke, the precise artistic vision. They represent a different kind of survival, maybe. A commitment to an essence, a composition. So perhaps what really lasts isn't the memory of the arguments or the drama.
But maybe that invisible elastic net, as the source calls it, that brief moment where all the contradictions, all the feelings were held together in some kind of balance, like Lily's painting.
Something held, even if just for a moment. That's definitely something to think about.